6 signs of a person who can't be loyal. The most expensive lessons in life come from trusting the wrong people, not because they openly told you they'd betray you, but because you ignored the signs, the small patterns, the subtle behaviors that screamed, "I will abandon you the moment something better comes along." But you chose to believe their words instead of watching their actions. Loyalty isn't common. It's not the default setting of human nature. Most people are loyal only when it's easy, only when it benefits them, only when there's no cost to staying. But real loyalty, the kind that holds when things get hard, when you're no longer useful, when standing by you means standing alone, that's rare. And the people who possess it show you who they are long before you ever need to rely on them. If you're ready to develop the discernment that protects you from wasted trust, from investing in people who will leave you bleeding when the stakes get real, then stay, because what you're about to learn isn't paranoia. It's pattern recognition. And in a world where most people mistake convenience for commitment, knowing these signs might save you years of pain. Here's what most people get wrong about loyalty. They think it's about love. They think if someone cares about you, they'll be loyal. If someone says the right things, makes the right promises, shows affection, they can be trusted. But loyalty has nothing to do with emotion. It's character. It's the ability to keep commitments when they become inconvenient. To stand by principles when standing by them costs you something. To honor your word when breaking it would be easier. And character isn't something people can fake long term. It reveals itself in small decisions, in how they treat people who can't benefit them, in what they do when no one's watching, in their pattern of behavior over time. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't trust words, they observed actions. They didn't believe promises. They watched patterns. They knew that character, like iron, reveals its quality under heat and pressure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change, and accustom thyself to consider that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are." People change, circumstances change, but character, real character, remains consistent. And disloyalty isn't a sudden shift. It's a character defect that was always there, just waiting for the right circumstances to reveal itself. The painful truth is this: most people you meet cannot be loyal, not because they're evil, but because they lack the strength. They've never built the character muscle required to stand firm when standing firm costs them something. They'll be loyal when it's easy, when you're winning, when being associated with you benefits them, when there's no cost to staying. But the moment things shift, the moment you're struggling, the moment a better option appears, the moment loyalty requires sacrifice, they'll fold. And they'll have 1,000 justifications for why it was the right decision. But here's what you need to understand. The signs were always there. You just weren't looking. Or you were looking but making excuses. Or you wanted so badly to believe in them that you ignored what their behavior was telling you. This isn't about becoming cynical. It's about becoming discerning, about learning to read character accurately so you invest your trust wisely, about protecting yourself from the people who will take everything you offer and leave the moment it's no longer convenient to stay. Let's break down the 6 signs that someone cannot be loyal. Not guesses, not theories, observable patterns that reveal character long before betrayal arrives. 1. They talk badly about people who aren't present. The first sign is so obvious most people overlook it. They talk badly about people who aren't in the room. Not honest critique, not addressing legitimate concerns. But gossip, mockery, character assassination, gleeful degradation of people who trusted them, delivered to you like entertainment. And here's what you need to understand. If they'll do it with you, they'll do it to you. The person who sits with you and tears apart their friend the moment that friend leaves, that person is telling you exactly who they are. They're showing you that loyalty to them is conditional and temporary. That trust means nothing. That the moment you're not present, you'll be the subject of the same treatment. But most people miss this sign because it feels good in the moment. It creates false intimacy. Look, they're confiding in me. They trust me enough to share this. And you feel special, chosen, part of the inner circle. But you're not special. You're just the current audience. And the show they're performing now, you'll be the star of it tomorrow. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." But how do you know who those people are? You watch how they treat others, especially people who can't benefit them, especially people who aren't present to defend themselves. The loyal person speaks about others with the same respect they'd want extended to themselves. They address issues directly with the person involved, not behind their back for entertainment value. They protect people's dignity even when those people aren't around to protect it themselves. Because loyalty isn't just about staying when things get hard. It's about protecting people's reputation, their privacy, their dignity, even when they're not there to see you doing it. But the disloyal? They see relationships as transactional, temporary. They extract value from each connection and then discard what's left with stories and gossip. And here's the test. Notice what happens when you don't engage with their gossip. When they start tearing someone down and you just don't participate. You change the subject. You give a neutral response. You refuse to join in. The loyal person respects that boundary. They take the hint. They stop. The disloyal person pushes harder. They try to pull you in. Because they need you to be complicit. They need your agreement to validate their betrayal. And when you won't give it, they mark you as not fully with us. Watch this pattern. Watch what people do with information they're given. Watch how they treat people who've helped them, invested in them, trusted them, the moment those people aren't useful anymore. Because the person who casually betrays others in conversation will casually betray you in action. It's not a question of if, it's when. And usually, when is the moment you're no longer serving their interests. The moment loyalty costs them something, the moment a better option appears. Epictetus taught his students, if someone speaks badly of you, consider whether what they say is true. If it is, correct yourself. If it isn't, laugh and continue on your way. But he also taught this, observe who speaks badly of others without cause. Those are not your people. Those are character-deficient opportunists who will turn on you the moment the social wind shifts. The practice is simple, but most people won't do it because it requires courage. When someone gossips to you about someone else, say clearly, "I'd rather not talk about them when they're not here." Or simply, "That's between you and them." Watch what happens. The loyal will respect it. The disloyal will resent you for it. And that resentment tells you everything you need to know about whether they can be trusted. Because if they can't respect your boundary against gossip, they definitely can't respect your trust when it matters. 2. They're only around when things are good. The second sign reveals itself over time. They're present when you're winning, absent when you're struggling. They show up to celebrate your victories. They want to be seen with you when you're successful, when you're valuable, when association with you benefits them. But the moment things get difficult, the moment you need support instead of offering it, the moment being connected to you becomes complicated or costly, they vanish. Not dramatically, usually subtly. They're just busy. They're dealing with their own stuff. They need space. They stop returning calls as quickly. Stop initiating contact. Stop being available. And when things improve for you again, when you're back on your feet, when you're useful again, they reappear, with explanations, with justifications, acting like nothing happened. That's not loyalty. That's opportunism. Real loyalty shows up in the valley, not just on the mountaintop. It's easy to be around someone when things are good. There's no cost, no sacrifice, no test of character. But when someone stands by you in the dark times, when you're struggling, when you're not at your best, when being associated with you offers nothing but the burden of support, that's when you discover who actually values you versus who values what you provide. Marcus Aurelius faced this constantly. As emperor, he was surrounded by people who claimed loyalty, but he understood most of them were loyal to his position, not to him, to his power, not his person. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." Not because he was cynical, but because he was realistic. He knew that most people operate from self-interest, and loyalty, real loyalty, requires rising above self-interest. The test of loyalty isn't, will you celebrate my success? It's, will you sit with me in my failure? Watch who stays when you're struggling. Who checks in when you're going through difficulty? Who offers support without being asked? Who doesn't need you to be at your best to want to be around you? Those are your people. Those are the rare ones whose loyalty isn't contingent on your utility. And notice who disappears, who finds reasons to be unavailable, who creates distance when things get complicated, who only resurfaces when you're useful again. Those people are showing you their character. They're revealing that their presence in your life is conditional, transactional. And the conditions are, as long as this benefits me. The practice. Pay attention to patterns over time. One absence doesn't mean disloyalty. People have their own lives, their own struggles. But a consistent pattern of showing up for the good and disappearing for the hard, that's character revealing itself. And when you see that pattern, believe it. Don't make excuses. Don't rationalize. Don't tell yourself they're just going through something. Because loyal people go through things too, and they still show up. They still reach out. They still find ways to be present. The disloyal don't, because fundamentally, they were never committed to you. They were committed to what you could do for them. And when you can't do it anymore, their investment ends. Protect yourself from these people, not by becoming closed off, but by being discerning about where you place your trust. Reserve your deepest loyalty for those who've proven they possess it. Everyone else gets courtesy and respect, but not your heart. 3. They have no long-term relationships. The third sign is revealed in their history. They have no long-term relationships, no old friends, no maintained connections from their past. Everyone in their life is relatively new. And if you ask about old friends, old partners, old colleagues, there's always a story. Always a reason why those relationships ended. And in every story, they're the victim. The other person wronged them, betrayed them, failed them. Pay attention to this pattern, because people who can't maintain any long-term relationships aren't unlucky. They're showing you their character. Loyal people accumulate relationships over time. They have friends from childhood, from college, from old jobs. Not because those relationships are perfect, but because they invest in maintaining them. They forgive imperfections. They work through difficulties. They value history and shared experience. But disloyal people leave bodies in their wake, burned bridges, abandoned connections. People who did them wrong, who, if you could hear the other side, would tell you a very different story. And here's the pattern within the pattern. Ask them why those relationships ended. Listen to how they describe it. Do they take any responsibility? Do they acknowledge their role in the breakdown? Do they show any nuance, any understanding of complexity? Or is every story the same? They were wronged, they were betrayed, they were the victim, and the other person was wholly at fault. Because people with character can acknowledge their own failures. They can say, I made mistakes too, or we just grew apart, or I wish I'd handled that differently. But people without character always position themselves as the wronged party, because they can't admit fault without shattering the narrative they've built where they're always justified in whatever they do. Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But disloyal people don't do that work. They don't examine themselves. They don't ask, why do all my relationships end the same way? They just move on to the next person, with the same patterns, creating the same outcomes. And if you get close to them, you'll eventually become another person they have a story about. Another relationship that didn't work out because you wronged them somehow. The practice. When getting to know someone, ask about their history, not invasively but naturally. How do you know? Do you keep in touch with anyone from who's your oldest friend? Listen to the answers. Listen to how they talk about past relationships. Listen for patterns. If everyone from their past is painted as a villain, you're looking at someone who either has terrible judgment in choosing people, or, more likely, someone who can't maintain relationships because they lack the character loyalty requires. And ask yourself, do I want to invest in someone whose track record shows they don't maintain commitments? Because past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. If they couldn't be loyal to anyone else, what makes you think you'll be different? 4. They break small promises consistently. The fourth sign is easy to miss because people think big loyalty matters and small commitments don't. They break small promises consistently, without apology or awareness. I'll call you tomorrow. They don't. I'll be there at 7. They show up at 7:30, unbothered. I'll send you that thing. Weeks pass, nothing. And when you mention it, they minimize it. Oh, I forgot. It's not a big deal. Why are you being so uptight? But here's what they don't understand, or don't care about. Character isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in the accumulation of small choices. And someone who casually breaks small promises is showing you they'll break big ones too. Because loyalty is integrity. It's doing what you said you'd do when you said you'd do it, because you said it. Not when it's convenient, not when it's witnessed. Always. The Stoics were obsessed with this. They understood that the same character that governs small actions governs large ones. You can't be unreliable in minor things and suddenly trustworthy in major ones. Character doesn't work that way. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. But disloyal people don't live this way. They say what sounds good in the moment. They make commitments casually, with no intention of honoring them. They treat their word as disposable. And if their word is disposable in small things, showing up on time, following through on minor commitments, keeping track of what they said they'd do, it will be disposable in large things too. The person who's late to everything isn't just inconsiderate. They're telling you your time doesn't matter, that their convenience outweighs your respect. The person who says they'll do something and then forgets isn't just scattered. They're telling you their word isn't binding, that commitments are suggestions, not obligations. And these small betrayals accumulate. They erode trust. They teach you that this person cannot be relied upon. And when something big happens, when you really need them to show up, they won't. Because they never developed the character muscle required to keep commitments when it's inconvenient. The practice. Pay attention to small promises. How people handle the little things reveals who they are. Do they show up when they say they will? Do they follow through on minor commitments? Do they keep track of what they've promised? Or do they consistently forget, minimize, excuse, and never change the pattern? Because someone who respects you respects your time, your expectations, the commitments they make to you, even small ones, especially small ones. And someone who doesn't? They're showing you exactly how much your trust means to them. Nothing. 5. They're loyal to whoever is in front of them. The fifth sign is subtle but devastating. They're loyal to whoever they're with in the moment. Not to people, not to principles, just to proximity. You're with them, and you're the best friend they've ever had. You're the most important person in their life. They'd do anything for you. But the moment you leave and someone else enters, that person becomes the center of their world. And they'll say the same things to them, with the same intensity, the same apparent sincerity. They're not loyal to you. They're loyal to the current social situation, to whoever can give them validation, attention, benefit right now. This is loyalty as performance, not character. They're playing the role of loyal person, but there's no substance behind it. The moment the audience changes, so does their allegiance. Watch how they act when you're not around. Listen to how they talk about you when you're present versus how they talk to others when you're gone. The stories will contradict, the commitments will shift. Because their loyalty isn't anchored to anything internal. It's completely responsive to external circumstances. Whoever has power in the moment gets their allegiance. Whoever can benefit them right now gets their support. This is why they can betray someone they claim to love and sleep fine at night. Because they were never actually bonded to that person. They were bonded to what that person provided. And when a better provider appeared, they switched with no internal conflict. Marcus Aurelius understood this. He was surrounded by people who would praise him to his face and plot against him behind his back. Not because they were all evil, but because they were weak. They had no internal anchor, no fixed principles, just self-interest disguised as loyalty. The practice. Watch how people treat others when you're around. If they're performing loyalty to you while undermining others, they're showing you what they'll do to you eventually. Real loyalty is consistent. It doesn't shift based on who's in the room. The person who's truly loyal speaks about you the same way, whether you're present or not. Defends the same principles regardless of the social cost. The situationally loyal will always betray you. It's just a matter of time and opportunity. Number 6. They justify their own disloyalty. The final sign is the most telling. They justify their own past betrayals. They explain why they had to leave, why they had to break their word, why their disloyalty was actually the right thing to do. Listen to how they talk about times they left people, broke commitments, abandoned relationships. If there's no remorse, no acknowledgement of harm done, no recognition that they failed someone who trusted them, you're looking at someone who will do the same to you and feel completely justified. Because truly loyal people understand the weight of betrayal. Even when they have to end relationships or change course, they do it with awareness of the cost, with respect for what was built, with acknowledgement of the pain their departure causes. But the habitually disloyal rewrite history. Every betrayal becomes a necessary decision. Every broken promise becomes a situation where they had no choice. They're always the protagonist doing the right thing in a difficult situation. This is how they protect themselves from the cognitive dissonance of being untrustworthy. They can't admit they lack integrity, so they reframe every instance of disloyalty as justified. And if they can justify past betrayals, they'll justify betraying you too. When the time comes, they'll have a story, a reason, an explanation for why leaving you was actually the right, even brave thing to do. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Disloyal people are poor in character, but they crave the reputation of being trustworthy. So they craft narratives where they're always justified, always forced into difficult choices, always doing their best. But their track record tells the truth. And if you listen to that instead of their stories, you'll protect yourself from becoming another person they had to betray for good reasons. So what happens when you understand these 6 signs? When you recognize that people who gossip about you, that people who disappear when things get hard, lack the character to be truly loyal, that people with no long-term relationships are revealing a pattern, that people who break small promises will break large ones, that people whose loyalty shifts with circumstance have no real loyalty at all, that people who justify their betrayals will justify betraying you. You develop discernment, not cynicism, not paranoia, but the ability to read character accurately and invest your trust wisely. Because your loyalty is valuable, your trust is precious, and giving it to people who cannot reciprocate is not just naive, it's self-destructive. The Stoics taught that we should judge people by their actions over time, not their words in the moment. That character reveals itself through patterns, not promises. That trustworthiness must be earned, demonstrated, and maintained. And they taught this because they understood the most expensive mistakes we make come from misplaced trust, from believing potential instead of observing reality, from hoping people will change instead of accepting who they're showing themselves to be. So be discerning. Watch for these patterns, and when you see them, believe them. Don't make excuses. Don't rationalize. Don't tell yourself it will be different with you, because it won't. Character doesn't change just because you want it to. But here's the other side. When you find people who don't display these signs, who speak well of others, who show up in hard times, who maintain long-term relationships, who keep small promises, who stay loyal regardless of circumstance, who take responsibility for their failures, hold on to them. Those are rare. Those are your people. Those are the ones worth investing in deeply. Build your life with them. Build your circle around them. And extend to them the same loyalty they extend to you. Because loyalty, real loyalty, is a two-way street paved by consistent character. And the strongest foundations in life are built on mutual trustworthiness, earned over time, proven through difficulty. This week, look at the people closest to you, not to judge them harshly, but to observe honestly. Do you see these patterns? Have you been ignoring signs because you wanted to believe in someone? And here's the harder question. Do you display any of these signs yourself? Because loyalty starts with being loyal, with being the kind of person who can be trusted, who keeps promises, who shows up, who stands firm. Build that character first. Then surround yourself with others who've built it too. Stay focused. Stay discerning. And remember, trust wisely given to trustworthy people is the foundation of everything strong in life. Trust foolishly given to the unworthy is the path to preventable pain. Choose wisely.